Most men have been taught to believe that when a woman walks away, she's the one with all the power, that if she stops calling, texts less often, or seems perfectly fine without you, it means she's already moved on. But what if that isn't the full story? What if the silence you see isn't proof that she doesn't care, but proof that she's processing the loss in a completely different way? That's exactly what we're talking about today. Why she often feels your absence far more deeply than you realize, and why, in many situations, she may end up needing your presence more than you think. This isn't about claiming that every woman reacts the same way or encouraging men to play emotional games. It's about understanding human psychology, emotional attachment, and the mistakes many men make when they assume that whoever looks the calmest is hurting the least. The truth is, people don't always express pain the same way. Some chase, others withdraw, some cry openly. Others stay silent while battling their emotions alone. Understanding that difference can completely change the way you see relationships. If you've ever wondered why a woman suddenly reaches out weeks or months after things ended, why she starts paying attention once you've genuinely focused on your own life, or why your quiet confidence often has a stronger impact than constant pursuit, then this video is for you. We'll break down the psychological patterns behind these situations in a way that's practical, realistic, and easy to understand. By the end, you'll have a clearer picture of why emotional value isn't measured by who speaks first, but by who struggles the most with your absence. Welcome back to the channel. If you're a man who wants to build confidence, understand relationships more deeply, and develop the calm, disciplined mindset that earns genuine respect, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. 1. Most men misread silence, and that's their biggest mistake. The first lesson every man needs to understand is that silence does not always mean indifference. This is where countless men make the wrong assumption. A woman stops texting, doesn't call, or seems busy living her life, and the man immediately convinces himself that she never cared. That belief often pushes him into chasing, over-explaining, or desperately trying to get her attention again. Ironically, those reactions usually make the situation worse. People process emotional loss in different ways. Some express every feeling the moment it appears. Others hide it, even from the people closest to them. Many women are capable of carrying strong emotions without showing them publicly. They may continue going to work, spending time with friends, posting on social media, and smiling in photos while still wondering why someone important is no longer in their life. Looking fine and feeling fine are not always the same thing. Think about someone who has spent months or even years talking to you almost every day. They become familiar with your voice, your habits, your jokes, and your presence. Whether it was a serious relationship or someone you were getting to know, your absence creates an empty space. Human beings naturally notice when a familiar part of their routine disappears. That doesn't guarantee she'll come back, but it does mean your absence can have a much greater emotional impact than you imagine. The mistake many men make is expecting immediate proof that they're being missed. Real emotions don't always appear instantly. Sometimes people only recognize someone's value after enough time has passed for the silence to become real. When the daily messages stop, when nobody checks on them the way you used to, and when life continues without your presence, comparison begins. She starts remembering conversations, shared experiences, and the sense of security or excitement that came with having you around. This is why emotional maturity matters. A confident man doesn't panic because someone becomes quiet. He understands that chasing validation rarely creates attraction or respect. Instead, he focuses on improving his own life, maintaining his dignity, and allowing time to reveal what words cannot. Whether she eventually reaches out or not, he refuses to let fear control his actions. Ironically, that calm attitude is often what leaves the strongest impression, because genuine confidence is remembered long after desperate behavior is forgotten. 2. She often realizes your value only after your presence is gone. One of the hardest truths for many men to accept is that people often don't recognize what they have until it's no longer available. This isn't because they're selfish or uncaring. It's because familiarity has a way of making valuable things feel ordinary. When someone is always there, answering calls, making time, solving problems, and offering support, it becomes easy to assume they'll always be around. That's human nature. Imagine a man who constantly checks in with the woman he's dating. He listens to her bad days, celebrates her victories, makes her laugh when she's stressed, and is always available whenever she needs him. At first, she appreciates it, but over time, if she starts expecting that attention instead of valuing it, she may stop noticing just how much he contributes to her emotional life. She isn't necessarily trying to take him for granted. She's simply become used to his presence. Then something changes. The man stops chasing. He doesn't become rude or cold. He simply shifts his focus back to his own purpose, his career, his health, his friends, and his personal growth. Suddenly, the constant attention she once expected isn't there anymore. The morning messages disappear. The instant replies are gone. The familiar voice that used to brighten difficult days is no longer part of her routine. That's when comparison quietly begins. She starts noticing moments where she would normally have reached out to you. She remembers the conversations that made her laugh. She thinks about how peaceful she felt when you handled problems calmly. She may even meet other men who remind her of what you offered, only to realize they don't bring the same level of maturity, consistency, or emotional stability. This doesn't mean she'll immediately admit it. Pride, uncertainty, or fear of rejection can keep people silent. Instead, she may start watching from a distance. She might view your stories more often, ask mutual friends about you, or find small reasons to reconnect. Not because she's playing games, but because losing something valuable forces people to reevaluate what they once overlooked. This is why men should never make their entire lives revolve around one person. The moment your happiness depends completely on someone else's attention, you begin negotiating from a place of fear. But when your life has purpose beyond the relationship, your absence carries weight because it reflects genuine self-respect rather than manipulation. The lesson isn't to disappear just to make someone miss you. The lesson is to become a man whose presence naturally adds value. When that value is no longer available, people notice the difference. Sometimes they realize it quickly. Sometimes it takes weeks or months. But lasting appreciation often begins the moment someone experiences life without what they once assumed would always be there. 3. Her distractions can delay the loss, but they cannot erase it. A woman may look completely unaffected after losing you, especially in the beginning. She might go out more, stay active online, spend time with friends, focus on work, or even start talking to someone new. From the outside, it can appear that she has moved on without a second thought. Many men see this and immediately conclude that they meant nothing to her. But that conclusion is often too simple. Distraction is not the same as healing. When a painful situation first happens, people often fill their lives with noise because silence forces them to think. Staying busy can temporarily reduce the discomfort, but it does not automatically remove the emotional attachment. She may be laughing with friends and still remember something you said. She may be meeting new people while quietly comparing their energy to yours. She may even convince herself that losing you was the right decision, only to question that belief later when the excitement fades. This is where many men lose control. They see her appearing happy and feel pressured to prove that they are happy too. They begin posting excessively, contacting other women for attention, or trying to make her jealous. That behavior reveals that she still controls their emotions. A disciplined man understands that he does not need to compete with appearances. Social media only shows selected moments. A photograph cannot reveal what someone thinks about late at night. A smiling video cannot tell you whether she feels lonely after everyone goes home. You should never measure another person's emotional state through what they choose to display publicly. Over time, distractions become less effective. The parties end, friends become busy, New attention loses its excitement. Daily life becomes quiet again. That is often when the emotional reality of your absence begins to settle in. She may start remembering the consistency you brought, the private conversations you shared, and the emotional comfort she once received from you. This does not mean you should wait around hoping she suffers or returns. That mindset keeps you emotionally trapped. Your responsibility is to continue building your life, whether she misses you or not. Train your body, improve your finances, strengthen your friendships, and become more emotionally disciplined. When you stop monitoring her life and start improving your own, you regain your power. She may eventually feel your loss more deeply, but by then, you may no longer need her reaction to feel valuable. That is the real victory. Not making her regret losing you, but becoming strong enough that her regret is no longer required for your peace. 4. The man who stays calm becomes the one she remembers. One of the biggest mistakes men make after a breakup or emotional distance is believing they have to do something dramatic to stay on a woman's mind. They think they need to send one last emotional message, explain themselves over and over, or prove how much they cared. While those actions may come from genuine feelings, they often create the opposite effect. The more you try to force someone to see your value, the less opportunity they have to discover it on their own. Now imagine a couple who had been together for years. Whenever they argued, the man always panicked. He called repeatedly, sent long paragraphs, apologized even when he wasn't entirely wrong, and did everything he could to restore peace immediately. Over time, the woman became used to this pattern. She knew that no matter what happened, he would always come running back. Then one day, something changed. Instead of reacting emotionally, he responded with maturity. He accepted that the relationship needed space. He wished her well, stopped arguing, and quietly returned to his own life. He wasn't trying to punish her. He simply understood that forcing someone to stay rarely creates genuine love or respect. At first, she might have expected the usual reaction. She may have assumed he would call within a day or two. She may have waited for another emotional message explaining everything again, but it never came. That unexpected calm begins to create questions. She starts wondering what changed. She notices that he isn't begging for attention or trying to convince her to come back. Instead of looking weak, he appears emotionally stable. Instead of chasing, he is moving forward with his life. That confidence often stands out because it is so different from what many people expect during emotional conflict. Think about the people you respect most. They usually aren't the loudest or the most desperate. They are the ones who remain composed under pressure. Relationships work in a similar way. Emotional control communicates strength far more effectively than emotional chaos. This doesn't mean you should become cold or pretend not to care. There's a big difference between being calm and being emotionally unavailable. A mature man can love deeply while still respecting himself. He can feel disappointed without allowing disappointment to control his behavior. Ironically, the version of you that she is most likely to remember isn't the one who begged her to stay. It's the man who handled a difficult situation with dignity, accepted what he couldn't control, and continued building a meaningful life. Whether she eventually returns or not, that kind of character leaves a lasting impression because genuine strength is quiet. It doesn't demand attention, it earns it. 5. When you stop needing constant reassurance, the dynamic changes. One of the greatest shifts a man can make is moving from emotional dependence to emotional stability. Many relationships become unbalanced because one person is constantly looking for reassurance. Every delayed reply becomes a source of anxiety. Every canceled plan feels like rejection. Every disagreement becomes proof that the relationship is falling apart. Living this way is exhausting, not only for the man experiencing it, but also for the woman who feels responsible for managing his emotions. Confidence is attractive because it creates emotional safety. When a man knows who he is, he doesn't expect one person to carry the weight of his happiness. He enjoys the relationship, but he also enjoys his own life. He has goals, friendships, hobbies, and ambitions that continue whether the relationship is going well or facing challenges. Imagine a man who is in a committed relationship. His girlfriend has an unusually busy week at work. She isn't ignoring him, she's simply overwhelmed with deadlines and responsibilities. Instead of assuming the worst, he gives her room to breathe. He doesn't send 10 follow-up messages asking why she hasn't replied. He trusts the relationship enough to avoid creating unnecessary conflict. Now compare that to someone who reacts with panic. He questions her feelings, accuses her of losing interest, and demands constant reassurance. Instead of feeling closer to him, she begins to feel emotionally drained. What could have been a temporary period of stress becomes a much larger problem because insecurity has replaced understanding. This is why emotional independence matters so much. When a woman sees that you are capable of handling life's challenges without falling apart, she begins to view you differently. She sees someone who can remain steady during uncertainty. That kind of stability is difficult to replace because it creates peace rather than pressure. Ironically, the less you rely on someone else to validate your worth, the more valuable your presence becomes. Not because you're pretending not to care, but because your confidence comes from within. If she walks away, you'll be disappointed, but you won't lose your identity. If she stays, you'll appreciate the relationship without making it the center of your entire world. That mindset changes everything. Instead of asking, "How do I stop her from leaving?" you begin asking, "Am I becoming the kind of man who brings value wherever he goes?" That question leads to lasting growth. And lasting growth is far more powerful than temporary approval. 6. People miss how you made them feel, not just what you did. Many men believe that expensive gifts, constant favors, or endless acts of service are what make them unforgettable. While thoughtful actions certainly matter, they are rarely what people remember most. What stays in someone's mind is how they consistently felt when they were around you. Think about the people you naturally enjoy spending time with. Chances are you don't remember every conversation or every detail. What you remember is that you felt understood, respected, relaxed, encouraged, or inspired. Emotions leave a deeper mark than individual moments. The same principle applies in relationships. If your presence brought calm during stressful times, she'll remember that. If you encouraged her when she doubted herself, she'll remember that. If your conversations made ordinary days feel exciting, those memories don't disappear simply because the relationship ends. As time passes, people naturally compare experiences. She may meet someone who is more successful financially, more outgoing, or even more physically attractive, yet she may still feel that something is missing. Why? Because emotional connection cannot be measured by appearances alone. This is why becoming a better man is always a worthwhile investment. Learn to listen without immediately trying to solve every problem. Develop patience instead of reacting impulsively. Improve your communication. Keep your word. Stay emotionally consistent. Those qualities create experiences that people remember long after specific events have faded. However, it's also important not to confuse kindness with losing yourself. Being supportive doesn't mean accepting disrespect. Being caring doesn't mean abandoning your standards. Healthy relationships require both compassion and self-respect. When a relationship ends, the emotional atmosphere you created often becomes clearer with time. She remembers how peaceful she felt during difficult seasons. She remembers the conversations that made her smile unexpectedly. She remembers the reliability that seemed ordinary while it was available, but became remarkable once it disappeared. This doesn't guarantee she'll return, and that shouldn't be your objective. The goal is to become someone whose character leaves a positive impact on everyone who enters your life. If someone genuinely valued that experience, your absence will eventually remind them of what they lost, not because you demanded appreciation, but because your actions consistently earned it. 7. The greatest power is walking forward without bitterness. The final lesson may be the most important of all. If your entire purpose is making a woman regret losing you, you've unknowingly handed her control over your future. Your happiness still depends on her reaction. Your confidence still depends on whether she comes back. That isn't strength. It's another form of dependence. Real strength begins when your focus shifts away from proving your value and toward living your best life. Imagine two men after the end of a relationship. The first spends every day checking her social media, asking mutual friends about her, hoping for a message that never comes. Months pass, but emotionally, he remains in the same place because his attention is still fixed on someone else's choices. The second man also feels the pain. He doesn't pretend it doesn't hurt, but instead of allowing that pain to define him, he uses it as motivation. He learns new skills, improves his health, advances in his career, reconnects with family, builds stronger friendships, and develops greater emotional discipline. Little by little, the relationship becomes one chapter of his life instead of the entire story. Now imagine which man is more likely to be remembered. The answer isn't difficult. Growth is memorable. Confidence is memorable. Purpose is memorable. A man who continues moving forward despite disappointment becomes someone others naturally respect. Ironically, this is often the point where some women begin to notice the loss most deeply. They see a man who didn't fall apart. They see someone who chose growth over resentment. They realize that his value never depended on the relationship because he was already building a meaningful life. Whether she reaches out again or never speaks to you, your mission remains the same. Continue becoming wiser. Continue becoming stronger. Continue becoming kinder without becoming weak. Continue protecting your standards while treating people with respect. At the end of the day, the greatest victory isn't hearing, "I miss you." The greatest victory is waking up each morning knowing that your peace, confidence, and purpose no longer depend on another person's decision. That's the kind of man who leaves a lasting impression, not because he chased validation, but because he became someone who never stopped growing. Her feeling your loss is not about manipulation, revenge, or hoping she suffers. It happens when your presence brought consistency, peace, confidence, and emotional value that became clearer only after you were gone. But your real responsibility is not to wait for her regret. It is to keep building yourself, become disciplined, purposeful, emotionally steady, and unwilling to beg for attention. She may miss you more than she admits, or she may never return, but neither outcome should control your future. The strongest man is the one who understands his value, learns from the experience, and keeps moving forward without bitterness.